everyone. Welcome to College for the Culture, a place for us to learn and thrive. It's Rachel here, and I'm back again with another episode. So I hope you all are doing well. Today, we're going to talk about networking. I know it's not really a topic that it's like either you're really good at it or you don't really know what it is. But networking is pretty important in terms of planning for your career and getting opportunities in the meantime. And I know we're all smart, we're all talented people, but to really make it to where you want to be, you got to have the right connections to get you far. So, with me to talk about this is Henry, who is a recent graduate of UMBC and a first year PhD student at UAlbany. So, hello, Henry. How are you today?
I'm doing really well today, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me today, and
Of
I'm
course.
excited to get to it.
Of course. It's going to be great. So, my first question off the bat is what does networking mean just for the people who don't know?
So I see networking as an exchange of information, right, between two or more people at a base level. And then it also requires a desire to build some kind of meaningful connection for it to be successful, right? I think a lot of times people will view networking in this glitzy, glamorous way where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, like I'm networking with this influencer and this celebrity and these people all over the place, and I just know millions of people. It's like, no, I feel it more as being just at the base level about that interaction of information and of values or whatever you choose to view it as. And then it's as simple as having this conversation,
Mhm.
and it can be as nerve-wracking as asking for a recommendation letter. But
Mm.
in either sense, that's what I feel networking as. I think about it um, almost like how you talk about a sales pitch,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So you come into a networking interaction, right? The other party might not know that you're trying to network, but you might be coming in being like, okay, like it's time to
Yeah.
network. Let's go. Let's talk. Um, and you're coming in and you're not only selling yourself, but you're also selling the reason why this connection is valuable to you and to them. And then from there, you're building and moving.
Nice. That is a really good definition. Like you're right. People kind of make it out to be this huge um glamorous like exclusive thing like yeah, I just networked with Beyonce. I just networked with Jeff Bezos and it's just like you just had a conversation with them or like emailed them and they emailed you back. Like it's not really like as deep as people make it. Which also is I think just calmed me down a little bit because like networking is a little bit nerve wracking, depending on who you're talking to. So yeah, thank you so much for that definition. I'm gonna like use that for the rest of my life now. So thank you.
Feel free.
So I also wanted to ask in your journey as a student, what was networking like for you?
So I would say I was a little bit blessed just because I'm someone who values lots of conversations with lots of people. I would say I'm pretty extroverted. And so because of that, it makes speaking to people like a lot easier than it might be for others. And I think also because I recognize the importance of the people around me in the movement towards my goals, right? In terms of how you think of the phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. So
Yeah.
recognizing the importance of, oh, there's this village I could be tapping into and
Mm,
moving into it from there. So for me, it was um, always just this process of asking questions and moving and going through it from there. And having been in a lot of different leadership positions and a lot of different senses, it's made speaking to potential connections easier for me. I don't feel that power distance nearly as much as
mm,
others might, but I don't say that as a deterrent in terms of, oh, you have to have all this experience with student organizations or in companies and all these things to network. It's like, no, it's just saying that that made it easier for me, but
Mm,
everyone has their own brand within it. So for me, that was my brand, as being someone that was inquisitive and ambitious and self-confident, right? Assured
mm-hmm.
in who I was and what I could offer and what I wanted to know. And so I would say it started off being like a luxury for me, in that sense, where it was like, oh wow, like I'm getting all these opportunities to talk to cool people. And so because of that, networking is this glitzy thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would say maybe the end of my sophomore year at community college and Montgomery College in Maryland. And then going into starting off at UMBC my junior year of undergrad. Um, it became much more of a necessity, where it was like, okay, now I need to move and adjust. And as I'm thinking about what I'm studying in psychology, where do I want to
Mm-hmm.
go with psychology, right? What do I want to do with it? Who do I need to ask? And so becoming more deliberate about networking as being like, this is something that will get me to my goal, rather
Yeah.
than this is something that just looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say now, um, through the pandemic, which when it was still kind of a necessity, because it was like, if I don't do this now, I don't know when I'm gonna find time to
Yeah.
do it. Uh, it then became more of just like almost like a second nature, like natural thing, where I was like, okay, this is this is a part of what I need to do, but it's not something that consumes me, and much more comfortable within that.
Wow. Yeah, such an interesting journey. I'm really happy that that's how it worked out for you. If people are listening to this, like, well, I'm not extroverted, I don't know. It's okay. We got you. We got you. You can get to Henry's level. You just gotta wait. We gotta listen to the rest of the episode. But wow, that's really amazing that it became almost second nature. Because I think people don't even think that's possible. You're like, I'm just gonna do it once, and once I get this, I'll try again next year. And but wow, that's like really cool. So I also wanted to ask, how can a student build connections with professors and even people that they see like as an authoritarian figure, see they inspire to like be someday. Because I feel like, especially with the pandemic, happening. A lot of things are like through email and online, and a lot of people are having we're having less and less like in-person interactions. So it made it difficult for them to like, okay, let me reach out because they don't even know if their professor knows them or if that person is even going to look at their email because they're so busy, blah blah blah. So yeah, how could a student build connections with people like professors and higher ups like that?
I think it's interesting that you bring up the pandemic angle as well, within that question, because I'm someone who never gave themselves room for excuses, right? In terms of being like, well, if I need to do something, I might as well just figure out a way to get it done. And I think my response to this question is colored by that, and then also by um, the context that I came into within the pandemic, in thinking about applying for graduate school and those sorts of pieces, and being like, well, if I put off applying for graduate school and wait for the pandemic to end, then when will the pandemic end, sort of thing. So it became a
Yeah.
necessity for me. Um, so in terms of that, I would say there's three main aspects to consider, right? There's showing appreciation, being willing to ask questions, and then being genuine, right? So showing appreciation, even if it's as simple as, if people are still learning online, and as things possibly start shifting more to in-person or hybrid classes, or if people feel more comfortable with online classes, staying online in that sense. um, Even just simple as in the chat after class, thank you, thank you for today's class, I appreciated it, I learned something, possibly maybe not, but thank you for today's class, right? So so just saying, this is what I'm taking from it. So you're getting yourself in there slowly but surely. um, I think to the point of whether the professor knows you or not, I think within that question is sort of the answer. right? Because if there's this question about, well, does the professor know me or not?
Mhm.
I don't know. But you know how they will know you is if you email them,
Yeah.
right? And so the worst thing that can happen is they don't reply. The best thing that can happen is you get a strong connection.
Mhm.
So it's about that risk taking within that, right? As you're showing that appreciation and asking questions is a room for vulnerability too,
Mhm.
right? People don't like to ask for help a lot.
Yeah.
And people also don't like to look like the dumb one in the room.
Yeah.
But I would say that I was someone who also saw questions as that until I think about my junior year of high school. And then it was just kind of this realization of, wait, hold on. Why why would I hold these things in my head when I need to know them, right? And keep myself back.
Yeah.
And so in the framing of questions, there's an understanding of the fact that you might not know everything, which is okay because no one knows everything, right? No one's assuming you know everything. Um, but it's an appreciation for the fact that you know where to find the answers. You don't need unlimited sources, just unlimited resources, right? And so making use of the ones that you have in your circle is valuable, right? Okay, I said that wrong. You don't need unlimited resources. You need unlimited sources. There we go.
Mm.
Probably edit that. Um, and then being genuine, right? Um, you don't need to flaunt yourself necessarily. You don't need to do some flowery um, soliloquy about how amazing your professor is, or about people within in a field, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, I saw your 30 years of experience and it changed my life. Like, you don't need to do that unless it
Mm.
did. Then say it. But then just still saying, hey, I'm a person in this place in my life, and I would feel like it'd be valuable to learn more from you and
Mm.
to grow within that. Um, so that for me, those 3 points were how I got one of my professors to become one of my mentors, right?
Mm.
Speaking up within class, whether virtually or online, um, emailing them if I had questions and not waiting to do that either, um, responding promptly as possible, um, and being willing to talk about my goals as well and saying, I'm here now and this is where I want to go. Do you have
Mhm.
insight about that?
Mm. Yeah, that's like, yeah, that's, I think what you're saying is like just taking the pressure off yourself and just asking, like just go for it and ask, because especially professors, it's their job to like respond to you. It's their job to answer your questions. Like don't feel like you're wasting their time. Like you are paying them to answer your questions if you really think about it. Um so this notion that like, oh, I don't know, like they might be really busy. No, like they every professor is required to have office hours at least, like in once a week in their schedule. Like they're required to do that. So I think like you're saying, just appreciate them, let them know thank you for all that you do. I would love to connect with you. And like you said, the worst it could be they don't answer, which is okay. It does not reflect on you. People are busy and are not great with email sometimes. And the best it could be is like an amazing connection and they become your mentor and it's great. But you won't know until you ask. So definitely, I definitely agree with everything you said there. And that could, and what you said about mentorship too, because having a mentor is important. Well, it depends on your field of study and what you want to do, but like having a mentor is super like valuable. They could like guide you every step of the way until you reach the point you want to be at. And they kind of become, I don't want to say like a parent figure, but it's kind of like that. Because they're always there if you need something and are willing to connect you with different things. So you never know, if you connect with them, they could become someone that could be a fundamental part into where you end up being in terms of your career. So Yeah. And I
Yeah, and I
also,
mean,
oh, go ahead.
my apologies.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I mean, I think about it in terms of a lot of award ceremonies for movie stars,
Yeah.
right? I keep remembering this one from Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace to him, where he
Mm.
was talking about Denzel Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure there was one story he was telling about how when I think he was at Howard at the time, and he got the chance to go to this prestigious um, academy, I think in the somewhere in the UK for like 2 weeks, and I think finding out that Denzel Washington was the one that eventually kind of like got him in the door, and then getting to meet him and talk to him and grow with him from there. And so like having this recognition of the fact that that could be you telling that story in
Mm.
5, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Like the difference between you being able to tell that story and you not is you talking to them or you not, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I remember when he said that. And like Denzel Washington was super famous when Chadwick Boseman was still like in Howard and was still trying to understand what he was doing. But like, and so it's probably super nerve wracking to talk to the Denzel Washington. But like, wow, without that, we wouldn't know who he was today. So yeah, just definitely. I think the theme here is to just go for it and see what happens. But I also wanted to follow up with that. Like, how do you professionally contact these people in the first place? Um, like through email or any other means. Like, how would you set that up?
so in a more professional sense, because obviously if it's your professors, which is the typical, I'm in your class and I have a question, right? But for a lot of people, the difficulty with networking is beyond that, right? Because I see conversations with your professors and with people within the field as being similar in the sense that they're both networking, possibly, but just different angles on it. So with people like within the field, I typically make use of LinkedIn. Um, I find myself on LinkedIn every so often, and so I have a few things that I keep in mind. So making sure to introduce myself. Obviously, they'd have access to my profile. Like there's a feature where you can connect with people. For those who don't know what LinkedIn is, um, it's basically the Facebook of business,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it operates kind of slowly in terms of getting hip on different things within society, similarly to Facebook, right? But it's valuable because the people established in their careers, a lot of them are on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So you go a little traditional to get to where you want to go, right? Um, and so it's this recognition of saying they might have my profile, access to my profile when I reach out to connect, right? You can personalize a connection in saying, hey, this is who I am. So for me, I would say, hi, my name is Henri Maindidze. I now say I just graduated from UMBC with a bachelor's in psychology, right? So you're saying off the bat, this is who I am, right? Sometimes you can tailor it to the reason why you're speaking to them. Like there were times when I'd reach out to different people within the field for advice about graduate school, right? So I'd frame it more as I'm currently studying at UMBC, looking to pursue a graduate degree in industrial organizational psychology, which is what I'm going to get my PhD in, right? So it's framing it around this is who I am and a precursor into why I'm here, right? This is the connection to you, possibly, right? And you continue that by talking about either the thing or the things that made you want to reach out. I think about one person that I now speak to regularly, Dr. Field, they're a professor at um, Columbia University, and they have a lot of experience within like talent management, right? And so for me, within IO psychology, I was like, that's really cool. I kind of want to see what that's about. Let me reach out. So when I reached out, it was saying, hey, I saw you have a lot of interesting experience in talent management. Can you tell me more about that? Or there was this particular position you had. Can you speak to more about that? right? So framing it around something they've done, some kind of achievement or accomplishment, because people love to talk about their accomplishments, believe it or not,
That's so
right?
true.
So that's saying that I recognize I'm not at the same place in life as you, which breaks down the power distance. And I want to know more about what you do and how you got there, which breaks it down more. So you have introducing yourself and highlighting the things that made you want to reach out, and then asking them a question about what you came to them for, right? So whether for me it was about a lot of times the past year, graduate school advice. Um, what are good IO programs to look at? What are good professors to focus on as I'm applying for graduate school? Um, what are good things to keep in mind as I start my doctoral journey and those sorts of things, which can be retooled for students at any point in their educational journey, right? In terms of, I'm looking for research opportunities. What kinds of things do you suggest that I keep in mind as I'm applying or as I'm looking for places? Do you have do you have ideas of things, right? Because people will look at some people's experiences and they'll see, oh, you interned at NIH. Oh, you were working at the FDA. Oh, you were working at the Office of Personnel Management, right? You see these names and these acronyms, and you're always like, oh my goodness, that's so much, right? But just bring them down in the sense that you want to get there, right? So it could be graduate school advice, career readiness tips, or clarity about the topic. Hey, I don't understand diversity and inclusion much. You have 15 years of experience working within diversity and inclusion in the workplace. What does that mean to you? Why is that significant? And if they don't answer, that's okay. People don't answer, like we were saying. Um, everyone, not everyone will want to talk to us, right? We know that. You think about it, relationships. Sometimes you're gonna shoot your shot and you're gonna miss. It's okay. No
Yeah.
one's 100% shooter,
Yeah.
but the best shooters keep shooting,
Yeah.
right? And you improve your craft. And so that's not an excuse to not try. Oh, I missed. I had a 3 out of 10 in my first 10 attempts. What if the next one gets you in the door?
Yeah.
It's a
Wow.
long answer to your short question.
No, I don't even have anything to add because everything that you said was like spot on. Like, wow. Like the way I'm gonna like once I'm done with this, go back and write some stuff down because you were spitting facts right there. Yes, I would continue. I wanted to also ask about resumes because when we talked before, you mentioned how really important they are. So I wanted to ask for the people, what should they keep in mind in terms of putting together their resume?
So I organize my resume within a few major sections. So firstly, I have my name kind of big at the top, centered, so you know who I am, right? Possibly some contact information, maybe my city. I don't know why people typically do that, but it's just kind of like, hey, now you know generally where I am, right? Okay. So the basics. And then it's saying, especially if you're still a student, which a lot of the audience typically is, um, saying your education, right? I always do mine in reverse chronological order. So the current thing at the top, then you kind of go down from there. So for me, I don't put my high school anymore. Shout out to Richard Montgomery High School. But I don't put it on there anymore. But now it's saying, oh, Montgomery College, got my associates there. UMBC, got my bachelor's there. And then just kind of the years. And then UAlbany, going to graduate school there, right? So then you have your education, right? Then you kind of come down, you're saying, what kind of experiences do I have? What kind of work experience do I have? People will make a mistake a lot of times where they'll look at some of their experiences and be like, this might not be related, so I'm not going to put it on. Now,
Mm,
you can frame a lot of experiences in a clever way,
yeah.
make it related. right?
Yeah.
Um, like, let's think of an example. Um, let's say you wanted to go to be a marketing coordinator, right? You just graduated with your bachelor's in communications or marketing, and you said, "Hey, I want to be a marketing coordinator." Most of your experience, besides a 6-month marketing internship, has been in retail. And you look at that, you're like, that's not it. It's like, no, what are you doing in retail, right? Oh, I'm a cashier. I did some things in the back, administrative tasks. So what you're saying is you have experience working with clients, being the customers themselves. You have experience with administrative tasks and upkeeping and like cleaning things out and those sorts of things, maintaining systems. You have experience in terms of like timeliness. That's a soft skill that's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Consistency, right? Adhering to principles.
Mm-hmm.
Every store you work at has a set of principles you think of and you go with it. You think of Chick-fil-A, right? What
Mm-hmm.
do we always think about Chick-fil-A? Everybody's always smiling,
Yeah.
saying like things like yes, of course, and all of that. They close on Sundays, right? So as customers, we know what Chick-fil-A is about,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you working at Chick-fil-A, if you come to me and say, "Oh, I worked at Chick-fil-A for 3 years," I'm gonna say, I'm gonna know what they're about,
Yeah.
probably, right? Because they're framing it in a way that's saying, I've done these things and I'm bringing that into this work, right? Obviously, interviews make it easier to talk about some of those things, but there's that. Um, so just rewording things on your resume to frame towards where you want to go, right? You're going for like data roles, things that are more like hard facts, right? Like, like if you're a cashier, you might say um, interacted with 300 customers a day, something like that, right? So you're getting like those numbers in. Anyways, so we have education, we have experience, right? What else might you put? If you don't have much within experience, where else could you go? Your classes. If you're a student, sometimes you could put your projects on there. Is it a culminating project that could be related to what you want to do? Did you have, with our marketing coordinator example, did you have some kind of project where you set up a fake social media marketing campaign? Put that on your resume, right? That's that's a product, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're applying for jobs, you're marketing yourself. So
Mm.
I mean, that's what it is, and it applies across the board. Like you think about it, um, let's take a more obscure one, like history, right? Um, History, like something people would think of either like a dusty historian or a professor, right? You could apply knowledge within history to government organizations, right? You could be library clerks. Library of Congress is always looking for employees, right? So there's ways to frame what you do. And then the last thing is skills. So in terms of skills, not saying hardworking, tenacious, creative, but like what kind of things have you used that show that? Is it Microsoft Suite? Is it Google Suite? Is it Zoom? Is it WebEx? Is it Canva? Is it Photoshop? What kinds of things have you used so they know, oh, not only are they creative, but they've used this tool to show their creativity.
Mm. Wow. Henry just told you how to finesse your resume. So I hope you're writing stuff down because, wow, I think you made a really good point. I mean, especially if you're a student, there's not a lot of extraordinary things you're doing besides going to school. You're not out here, 1 second you're working for Apple, next second you're working for Google, next second you're working for Facebook. It's not like that. Most of the time, because we're so young, you work at McDonald's, you're a summer camp counselor, uh, you work at Gap, you work at Old Navy, or you're working at a supermarket, or whatever, or you work with your parents or something. You do like all these little things, but like you learn so much through those experiences. I, for a time, worked at CVS. I did not like it. But when I was there, I realized, wow, I have to talk to people in a certain way. I am have to make sure I'm super organized with all the products. I have to make sure I remember where everything is. Um and you don't, because these type of roles as like a retail associate, a sales associate, customer service, cashier, um or a waitress or whatever, because we think of them so low, we don't think about the skills that you gain from those experiences and how they could help you in all aspects of life. So like wording it in a way that's like that brings to light the skills that you're gaining from those things. That's how you finesse a resume. And that's how people know what you're capable of. So yeah, that is such a good point. And that I also did, because I put that I'm a cashier at CVS, but I was making it as if I was like a professor or something. I made it as if I like did a bunch of stuff. So yeah, don't be afraid. No matter what type of experience you had, how no matter how small it is, put it on, because you probably gained at least one skill from it. So, yeah. I also wanted to ask in terms of opportunities, like where do you think is the best places to find internship or like job opportunities? How can students like find those things?
Okay, so in terms of this point, I'm a penny pincher, right? I don't like to spend my money if I don't have to. And sometimes, even if I want to, sometimes I also talk myself out of it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, I've earned this. Do I really want to make use of it in that way, right? So there's a lot of evaluation. Um, you are possibly a student right now, whether that's in high school, uh, a community college, grade school, 4-year university, or graduate school, right? Some of you was in the workplace. You're in the workplace, right? Okay. So for the vast majority of you that are in school, there's career centers, right? Or career counselors. Make use of them. You're already paying for them, right? It's not like you not
Yeah.
using them saves you money.
Yeah.
They're in your tuition. So if you're gonna pay for them anyways, you might as well use them.
Yeah.
That's that's free help in that sense, right? So it's I feel like the principle of it's better to know someone's not gonna help you out than to not know what they could do for you
Mm.
is valuable, right? I'd rather talk to like I've had experiences where I'll talk to a career counselor and I'll come out of the conversation thinking me sitting here right now for 5 minutes thinking about this was more effective than that 30-minute conversation. But I
Mm.
value that 30-minute conversation because now I know, hey, that person can't help me get where I want to go,
Mhm.
right? So recognize that in terms of putting yourself out there, right? So make use of the people you know. And in terms of the people you know a lot of people, right? You don't need to know the celebrities and the influencers and the people at the top of your fields, whether that's within psychology, whether it's within music or business or healthcare or whatever you want to go into. Um, there's people around you that you know, whether that means family members, uh, parents of your friends, um, homeless supervisors at the Gap or at CVS, right? There's people that you've interacted with that could get you to where you want to go. And so make use of them in that search. I know for me, um, what was it? I remember that 2 years ago, when I was at Montgomery College, I was a learning assistant, right? So I was helping out within the statistics class, and it was what it was, right? Helping out in the class, helping students, study sessions, all that fun stuff, and I enjoyed it. This past summer, I needed something else to do. I reach out to the same supervisor. Hey, do you still have room? Do you need someone for the summer? I can help you out. We went from there, right? Sometimes you can ask people that you've worked with and had strong working relationships with and come back and say, hey, I thank you for that opportunity where I got to work with you on that political campaign for 6 months. Do you know any people that are looking for people interested in political science, right? I'm studying political science or I'm studying history and I want to get into government somehow. Do you know anyone? Or do they know anyone? Right? Put out those feelers. So those are free ways to put out feelers. Um, Besides that, job boards. LinkedIn I would use more as a networking site than as an application site. And sometimes through networking with people on LinkedIn, you'll find that they'll be like, oh, I have this internship opportunity that I know of or that I'm offering. You should think about it. So there's that. But Indeed's good. Glassdoor is good. Um, Monster is good for finding things as well. So just making use of what you know. Um, and just think about it in terms of your network can be a reflection of your net worth, right? Your soft net worth, not just in terms of, oh, I have millions of dollars, but it's like, I know people that have value and that want me to grow and that are excited about where I'm going.
Mm, dang. No, that's like, yeah, that's like a really good point that you're making about it's not just about reaching out to higher up people, reaching out to people with a million followers with a lot of status. Like there's so many people in your life that um could possibly help you to where you want to be. If your mom could be a nurse. My mom's a nurse. I'm into healthcare and I asked her when I was in high school like, "Hey, is there something I could do in your hospital or something?" She's like, "Yeah, you could be a volunteer. Here's the paperwork. I could talk to somebody to help you get through that. Even people that you used to work with, don't just feel just because you left there doesn't mean you can't contact them. Like they also have a phone, just like you have a phone. So just try it out. So I also would add on to that that like your school email has so many people just there's always people emailing you about different opportunities on campus in different fields of study, many internship opportunities, job opportunities, or different webinars or sessions or workshops and stuff. Pay attention to your email. I know it could be a lot because I feel like I get 100 emails a day from like different people, half that I don't even know. But like, just stay tuned to that, especially around the winter time, because you're gonna get a lot of emails saying, "Oh, internship opportunity for summer 2022," or this internship or that, and there may be one that may be interesting to you, and you should apply for it. So like, pay attention to your email. That helped me a lot. I feel like I wouldn't have the internships that I had when I was in college if I didn't look at my email very well. So I would also recommend to do that. And I would also say to like join webinars and conferences and stuff. Like if there's one that's like a science careers conference and you have time in the weekend and it's virtual so it's accessible, join because those conferences are there to like give the students resources in terms of what they want to do, whether you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, or even if you want to do fashion or whatever. Those sessions, those webinars, those conferences are there to help you. And then you might be able to connect with people in those conferences. Or that you could also stay on those conferences email lists and they could send out like opportunities to you. That's how I am in the internship I am now because I randomly joined this science conference a few months ago and then they started emailing about stuff. And I was like, oh, did I see paid internship? I will apply and look into that. So I would also recommend those things if you're looking to get internship opportunities. I know people are like a little bit with the pandemic, I don't know what's out there. A lot of things are not happening, but like they are there. They are there. You just got to do a little searching.
Yeah, and I mean, if I could add on to the add-on,
Yeah.
um, I mean, please read your emails. I think I would say, as someone who got the opportunity to help set up a not set up, but facilitate a mentorship transfer mentorship program at UMBC this past year, for incoming transfer students, and working with non-traditional students and telling them about, oh, there's these career readiness events, there's these student organizations you could be a part of, reach out to your professors if you need them, and some of those things. And some of them would say things like, oh, well, I didn't really know you could do things like that. It's like, well, now you do, right? So like, be like, there's so much value that you're getting out of things that you're already paying for, right?
Mm,
So make full use of it. I think sometimes, the mistake that can be made is saying, I get so many emails, right? So I'm not going to read any of them. It's like, you can, like, no, just like skim through. If you don't see anything that stands out, you don't see anything, right? But if you do, you never know, right? And some of the conferences and webinars, as you mentioned, some of your professors might be in them, or your professors might know people that could be in them. I would say for me, one interesting like domino effect, that I had was last was it the end of last March, as the pandemic was really settling in and making its new home. Um, and I was stuck in my room, just staring around and being like, am I really gonna have to see these walls for the next few months? Which became a year and a half. Um, I remember reaching out to one of my professors and saying, hey, um, I know I want to go to graduate school and study IO psychology. Don't really know too much beyond that. I know what it's about. I know what the field's generally about. I feel like there's a gap though in terms of my readiness to apply. What did they do? They connected me with two people in their network. One who's a practicing psychologist with a master's degree, one who's a social organizational psychologist, basically the same thing, with a PhD. And I got to talk to both of them about the benefits of whether should I go for a master's or a PhD, should I go applied or academic, um, and all kinds of questions like, what programs are good to apply to, um, which one should I go with, a large class size, small class size, things like that. And so from there, um, one of them, um, I mentioned beforehand, Dr. Field connected me to this organization called Blacks in IO, which is great for anyone interested in IO. Not to plug it, but anyways, um, so there was that. And then from there, I got an internship opportunity, which helped me prepare for graduate school more. And then I got a reference from my supervisor from that internship, my current summer internship, right? So there's a domino effect.
hmm. Yeah, that's true. There is a little domino effect, like you answering that one email or you contacting that one person could lead to an opportunity, which could even lead to like a job or lead to you connecting with someone that you wouldn't even have thought you would have connected to in the first place. So it just takes that one little first step to like get you to where you want to be for sure. And to follow up with that, I did want to ask like if you don't know what you want to do, if you don't really you came in undecided and you're still undecided right now, how do you even approach networking? Like how do you approach connecting with people if you don't even know what you want to do yet?
Disavow yourself of the notion that people who are doing what they want to do know everything about what they're doing, right? Don't assume that just because your friend says, for example, at their first year of undergrad, that they know they're going to go to the law school and then they're going to work in this firm doing this type of thing. Um, like don't assume that just because they have that path in mind, that everything's in place, right? And don't let that the risk of comparison daunt you, right? Don't say, oh, just because um, my friends have it more figured out than me means I'm just not gonna figure it out. It's like, no, you have time to figure it out. I told one of my friends last week, slow burners are good burners too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just take a little more time. So like I'm a really inquisitive person. So that means even if I have a good idea of where I want to go, I still ask lots of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to ask questions. Recognize that people are willing to answer if you reach out to them.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to reach out. And if they don't reply, like we said, keep it moving. And that's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, networking is an exploratory process, anyways. You're just getting information.
Yeah.
So just get that information.
Yeah. I will also say too, like, if you even have a little bit of an interest in something, explore that, Like if you know, if you're like, hey, writing is kind of cool. I mean, I don't know if I want to major in it, but it's kind of cool. I've did this class, I think it's interesting. Then like explore that a little bit. Maybe connect with your professor. Maybe they could connect you to this competition that's happening or this workshop that's going on in another college or stuff like that. And then you join that and you might realize, hey, I think I find my niche. Or if you don't, it's okay. It was an experience and you move on and you try something else. But like literally nobody has to figure out, like he said, like even if people know like okay I want to go in there, I want to study law, and I'm going to be junior partner in like 5 years or something like that. People change, things happen, so don't get intimidated by those people. Especially now we've seen with the pandemic, like unpredictable things happen that might change your like change your mind. Is like it's like a 360. You might change completely what you want to do and you have to like do something else. So don't get intimidated or like afraid if you are coming into college right now, or if you're still in college and you have no idea what you're going to do. I would just say if you have a little bit of an interest in something, see where that goes, and don't be afraid to try out new things. Don't be afraid to reach out to different types of people until you find where you want to be. And even if you graduate college and you're, out in the workforce and you still don't know what you're doing, it is okay too. There are people that are 30 years old, 40 years old that have no idea what they're doing. And if you feel like if you maybe went to accounting and then realized, this is terrible, but I already have this good job that's stable, it's okay to change your mind. Like, it is okay. Like, people make it seem like it's a terrible thing to like change a career path or change your field of study or change your major. And it's not. This is your life. And maybe it might be a little bit more work. Maybe you might have to be studying a little bit more, applying to a little bit more things. But you have to think of the end goal. Do you want to be in a place where you're happy, where you're fulfilled, where you're challenged a little bit? Yes. And for some people, that requires a lot of change and requires a lot of moving around and shifting. So, yeah, it's all good if you're undecided. Just try out new things, explore new stuff. And I also wanted to follow this is not a follow up question, but like another question about rejection, like what to do if you took all these tips just now and you're connecting with people and you're applying to things and you just keep getting rejection. I'm sorry to inform you, but oh, thanks for applying, but you didn't get it. All those type of things. I feel like although it is a way of life and we keep on saying it's okay, keep trying, it it hurts a lot, like mentally, to keep getting rejection after rejection after rejection, and then you're sitting in the summer and you don't know what you're doing, or you are like in the school year and you didn't get that research position, you didn't get this, like it might affect you and make you to change what you want to do and make you question, like, am I even cut out to do this what I'm studying right now? So like how would you deal with those rejections?
I think before delving into this question, I think there's an interesting overlap between rejection and um, this, like that current uncertainty that's going on, right? Due to COVID-19. Like you were saying just now, um, it's okay to shift what you want to do and to recognize that life is fluid, and it's like you're not married to this job, right? You might be married to a person, but you're not married to the job, right? So you don't have to keep you don't have to keep a ring on it, especially if there's no ring,
Yeah.
right? So recognize that. And I think that dovetails nicely into rejection, right? Because one of my mentors always talks about it in terms of relationships, right? You shoot your shot, you miss, that's okay, right? That is that is totally fine, right? But that's what it is. How many times do we hear stories of athletes where they'll sit there and talk about how, oh, I was struggling with this thing, worked at it, improved, moved on, right? I think of this one story for any sports enthusiasts. Cristiano Ronaldo, when he was at Manchester United, one of his teammates, Rio Ferdinand, was telling a story about how when he had first come to Manchester United, he was very skillful, very good at moving between players and all of that. But his shot, it was powerful, but it wasn't accurate, right? And so, for anyone that doesn't understand soccer, you have to score in the goal, right? So he got all the power, wouldn't always go in, right? So Rio talked about how after practice, Ronaldo would take a bag of balls over to one of the nearby goals and he'd just shoot, right? And Rio was talking about how, like, oh, like what's Ronaldo going to do? And he's like, he's just gonna go shoot, right? And then you see after months and months, like, oh, his shooting is actually a lot better now, right? It's okay to recognize that, you know, this internship rejected me. That sucks. What did I learn from this process? Especially if an internship doesn't give you specific feedback on what they do. And aside on that, um, I used to be one of the people who hated generic rejection emails. We regret to inform you that um, despite your excellent credentials for this position, we chose to move on with another candidate. We had an exceptionally high number of applicants for this position, but we wish you all the best in your future. Right? That's a generic letter. Um, and I used to hate that, but now going to IO psychology, where I might have to write some of those, I'm like, standardization is nice. So sometimes you got to just get it done. But I say that to say it's okay to recognize that, but then say, how did I do in this interview? Right? I had all the experience on my resume. They knew that. That's why they brought me in for the interview. Okay. Was I hesitant as I was talking? Did I sound shaky? Was I unable to properly answer some of the questions? Did I not come off in the best way that I could have? Did I not frame my experiences the right way? So it's a learning process that you frame it as. So, like Ronaldo, where he just kept on shooting and shooting and shooting. Now he's one of the all time greats. Now you sit here and say, you could be an all time great, but you just need to keep shooting and understand also where the problem is. And then from there, work to resolve it. Um, I can think of several where it's like there. So when you're applying for an internship or a job, you sit there, you're like, you kind of build yourself up with it, right? Um, you imagine yourself within the job, doing the thing, the experience you could have, um, and so it's hard to let that go. And so recognize that just because you wanted something or someone doesn't mean they always wanted you back.
Mm,
And so if you value something at a level that you're not valued back at, find something that values at that level,
mm-hmm,
right? So go find that thing, right? So for
mm-hmm,
me, I deal with rejection by taking that on the chin and being like, okay, I'm just gonna get my bag of balls and I'm gonna go practice and I'm gonna go
mm-hmm,
improve and move. And I would say for me personally, it's worked out so far. Um, but I think it's important to recognize that for students, especially students of color. and of other marginalized communities, especially, people will look at you a certain way and may not let you in the door.
Mm-hmm.
But there are doors. You just have to find them.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a perfect response. It is definitely difficult to deal with rejection, but it is, like you said, an important time. It is a good time for you to reflect, like see what you did, like in terms of your interview or even your resume. And if everything was perfect and they just could only pick a few people and you weren't part of that batch, like don't make that doesn't mean that you're not intelligent in any way or that you're terrible or like you should just change what you want to do. No, like some things are super selective and sometimes you're not a part of that batch. So I, and especially if you're in a marginalized community, like you said, you're going to face that a little bit more than you would like. And it's could be for things that you can't change, um, which, like I said, has no reflection on you. I think honestly, if you get rejected from something, that's honestly a blessing in disguise because that means it just wasn't meant for you. Imagine if you sometimes I think about, hey, if I was there, would I even have enjoyed it? Would I even have liked it? Like the website is pretty promising, but like maybe I wouldn't have really enjoyed it as much, or maybe the people I wouldn't have vibed with very well. Um, but there, like you said, there are doors for you that were willing to welcome you with open arms without any question, and no matter what you look like, where you come from, or what you're doing. But it just takes a little bit more to find those things. So yeah, that was a beautiful response. And I think the last thing I wanted to ask is like, we talked a lot today about a lot of different things. So, what should people take away from this whole conversation?
Like it's been said several times, shoot your shot. Know your worth, right?
Yeah.
If if that means sitting down and saying, what am I good at, right? What do I need a little bit of assistance with? And what is just not for me? That's okay. I would say for me, like as an example, what I'm good at, I am a really strong critical thinker, right? What do I need a little bit of improvement with? Um, I would say sometimes getting out of dreamland, right? What can I not do? Social media, right? So like there's this recognition of this is this is what I'm strong with. This is where I can grow. And some of these things that's just not for me as much, right? So um appreciate that, recognize your skill set and leverage your skill set in terms of resumes, right? As we said, like what kinds of products have you used to show your experiences? In terms of networking, um, just making sure that you're saying how you see value in this relationship, right? Networking is not a glamorous process, right? Networking is not just saying, "Hey, I need your advice on graduate school," right? This is what I'm thinking about it. These are my questions about it. Like, why is it so long? Um, why do I have to pay so much money? Although I don't have to pay money, God bless. But like, why is it so much money? Um, do I have to stay with one advisor? Can I change my mind? Those kinds of things. Um, and walking within that and saying, okay, now I'm learning. Now I'm growing, right? Because once you recognize, I don't know everything, but I know someone who does. That's value, right? You just added value to any job that you do. Because if you can recognize what you do and do not know, and who can get you there, that's that's money. Think about the number of people that can't do that. So recognize that, appreciate that. Um, Beyond that, what else should you know? Um, it doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted. Um, if you have a stutter, or if you like to dress all kinds of different ways, it's how you show up in the space, right?
Yeah.
Um, so show up the right way. Show up as you want to be seen as a potential employee or as a potential student, and move with that, and your net worth will increase.
Wow. That I'm gonna leave it right there because wow. You dropped some amazing gems today, Henry. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for talking with me. Where can the people find you to support you and support the work that you do?
They can find a podcast I started for the Universities of Shady Grove at on Instagram and Twitter at USG. So the letters USG, the number 9, and then TEA. So that's where they can find the podcast I started, which will be continued by other students, right? Talking about all kinds of interesting things, especially for non-traditional students, getting that experience and recognizing that. Where they can find me, they can find me on Instagram, YHM1500. That's me. They can find me on LinkedIn at my name, just Henri Maindidze, which may or may not be in the comments, or the episode description. Um, that is, yeah, those are the two main places they can find me.
Nice. Thank you so much. So if you liked what Henry was spitting right now, definitely connect with him. And I'm sure he'll give you even more advice. Check out the podcast USG9T. And yeah, thank you so much, Henry, for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all, it's time for the culture shout out. And today's culture shout out goes to Blacks in Industrial Organizational Psychology. It's a professional networking and learning nonprofit that serves anyone from Black IO psychologists to students and from practitioners to allies. They provide networking events, mentorship opportunities, information sessions, and pro bono volunteer experiences. So if you are Black and interested in psychology, definitely check them out because they have so many resources and job opportunities. And if you want to join the nonprofit or just want to learn more, follow their Instagram at BlacksInIO and their LinkedIn, which is also BlacksInIO. And if you want a shout out, feel free to hit me up on Instagram at College for the Culture, and you could be featured next time. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd really appreciate it if you do. For more content or suggestions on what to talk about next, follow us on IG at College for the Culture. And if you want to consult with me about anything college related, email me at collegefortheculture@gmail.com. Take care of yourselves, y'all. God bless y'all. And don't forget that we see y'all and we got y'all. Bye.